Drop in 2 slices of bread. Push the lever down. In about 2 minutes, pale becomes golden. But a toaster does something stranger than simply getting hot. It paints, it counts, and it knows, almost to the second, when to let go. Look closely, and a plain kitchen box turns into a small machine for shaping heat. Let us slice one open and watch the whole thing happen, one quiet step at a time. It starts at the wall. When you push the lever down, you close a switch, and electricity flows into the toaster. That current is a river of charge, pushed by the outlet at a steady pressure we call voltage. Most of the toaster is just an easy path for it, plain metal that barely slows it down. But one part of that path is built to be difficult. It is meant to resist the flow, and here resistance is the entire point. Stretched across the inside are flat ribbons of a metal called nichrome, a blend of nickel and chromium. Nichrome fights the current. As charge squeezes through, it bumps and jostles the metal's own atoms, and those countless tiny collisions shake the wire from within. That shaking is heat. The harder a material resists, the more of the electricity turns warm instead of just passing by. So the nichrome ribbons grow hot while the wires feeding them stay cool. Heat made on purpose. Within seconds, the ribbons climb past 500 degrees and begin to glow a dull orange. Hot things shed their energy as light. Most of that light is infrared, a color just past red that your eyes cannot see, but your skin feels as warmth. The glowing wires pour invisible infrared toward the bread on both sides at once. Nothing actually touches the toast. The energy simply crosses the gap as radiation, the same way the distant sun can warm your face. The bread soaks up that infrared and heats from the surface inward. First, the moisture near the crust boils away, drying it crisp and stiff. Then, above about 300 degrees, the real change begins. Sugars and proteins in the bread collide and rebuild into hundreds of brand new molecules. This is the Maillard reaction, the same browning that gilds a seared steak or a roasted coffee bean. It is not burning, it is chemistry, painting flavor and color across the slice. But heat alone would never stop on its own. Leave the wires running and golden slides into brown, then black, then smoke. So the toaster needs a sense of time. It must hold the bread in the heat for just long enough, then release it at the right shade. Older toasters listen to the heat itself. Newer ones count with electronics. Either way, the goal is identical. Catch the bread at golden and not 1 moment later. That decision lives in a tiny circuit. When you pressed the lever, you actually did 2 things at once. You lowered the bread into its cage, and you snapped a small piece of iron flat against an electromagnet. As long as current flows, that magnet stays sticky, gripping the iron and holding the whole carriage down against a loaded spring. Nothing mechanical keeps the toast inside, only magnetism. Cut the magnet's power for even an instant, and the spring is suddenly free to fling the bread back up. So what cuts that power? In many toasters, a small timer. A resistor slowly feeds a component called a capacitor, which fills with charge like a bucket under a thin trickle of water. The browning dial simply changes how thin that trickle is. When the capacitor finally fills to a set level, it trips a switch that releases the electromagnet. Turn the dial toward dark, and you only slow the trickle, quietly giving the heat more seconds to work the surface. Some toasters skip the clock and feel the warmth directly, using a bimetallic strip. It is 2 metals bonded together that expand at different rates, so rising heat makes the strip curl like a leaf in the sun. Once it has bent far enough, it springs the latch itself. Either way, the bread sits centered in a wire cage that holds each slice the same distance from the ribbons, so both faces brown evenly instead of scorching hard on one side. Then comes the release. The timer trips, the electromagnet lets go, and the spring that has waited this whole time finally wins. It shoves the carriage upward, lifting the toast into view with that familiar clack. In the very same motion, the moving parts break the circuit, so the nichrome ribbons go dark and immediately begin to cool. The toaster has now done its one trick from start to finish. It heated, it watched the clock, and it stopped itself. A good toaster also knows how to quit early. The cancel button simply cuts power to the electromagnet by hand, freeing the spring whenever you choose. And because the heat and the latch share the very same current, a power cut releases the bread too. The toaster cannot easily get stuck switched on. Its grip on your breakfast and its source of heat are the same single flow of electricity, deliberately tied together so that losing one always lets go of the other. So follow the whole chain. You push the lever, closing the switch and locking the carriage to an electromagnet. Current floods the nichrome ribbons, which resist and glow. They pour infrared across the gap, and the bread browns through the Maillard reaction. Meanwhile, a timer or a bending bimetallic strip quietly counts the seconds. At the right moment, it releases the magnet, a waiting spring pops the toast, and the circuit opens. Heat, chemistry, and timing all folded into one small box. A toaster is a tiny argument between making heat and knowing when to stop. Next time the lever clicks up and the toast appears, you will know the electromagnet just let go and the spring did the rest. Slice something open with us again soon.